Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you new here, my name is Donna, and for those of you not new, thank you so much for continuing to come back and support my channel. I appreciate all of you so very much. Today we are doing the next installment in my Palette Roulette series. For those of you unaware, my Palette Roulette series is about me using an app to choose a palette and then coming back to you after a week of using said palette and telling you my discoveries, my findings, how much I enjoyed the palette or didn't enjoy the palette. My Palette Roulette series wasn't built on a decluttering, with a decluttering mindset, but I have decluttered quite a few palettes thus far. But really it's just about getting familiar with the products that I have, using the palettes that I have. I started this series because I noticed that I continued to, bring new stuff in, and then just wasn't really using the palettes that I had. So I decided to do this based on another channel who was doing something similar, only using it as a decluttering series on her channel. Her name is Danny. Her channel name is Danabo, and all that information is linked down in my description box below. Please go check out her channel. I very much enjoy her Palette a Week series. For last week, my app chose for me the Morphe and James Charles palette, or Morphe x James Charles palette / collab. The James Charles palette. This is the full-size version. I did purchase this not that long ago, actually. It was purchased within the last 6 months and brought into my collection, but I do know that this palette came out about a year ago. This year, they decided to make a miniature version of it for its 1-year anniversary, which I thought was presumptuous of James Charles to think that if somebody had the full-size version, they also wanted a miniature version. But who am I to talk? Maybe they do. On the Morphe website, this has 4.9 stars, which isn't surprising to me. It does have about 3,400 reviews. I think 3,454, so there's quite a few reviews, and it does have a 4.9 star rating. And on the Ulta website, which is the only other retailer that it's sold on, it is an Ulta exclusive from what I understand. It has 4.6 stars with just over 3,350. It's right at about 100 less than the Morphe website. You can, however, pick it up on Amazon or eBay for the grand price of $70, which it normally retails for $39. So there's that, if you so choose. They also have some knockoffs on there. Wet n Wild also did a pretty decent knockoff of it in a smaller version that looks very much like James Charles's mini of said palette, which might be why he got all kinds of twisted about Wet n Wild coming out with theirs. God knows. I don't know. I don't keep up with all that stuff, so let's just move right on. This palette does retail for $39 on the Morphe or Ulta website. It does have a total of 2.67 ounces in it. It is the Morphe and James Charles Inner Artistry palette. So with that being said, they can't call it an eyeshadow palette because it is full of all kinds of pressed pigments that are quote unquote not safe for the eyes, so say the FDA. That does not mean you can't use it on your eyes. That just means please use it at your own risk. I know that there was a big controversy going on when it first came out. A girl that does videos here on YouTube named Cody Rants, I believe, had some big rant that she did about it staining your eyes. Well, that is the whole reason why the FDA says that certain pigments are not eye safe, is because they can cause irritation of the eyes as well as staining. I don't explain it very well. Jen Loves Reviews explains this very, very well and has quite a few of her channel episodes revolving around FDA guidelines and what makes something eye safe versus not eye safe. I can just tell you I have used all the colors on my eyes. Yes, there is some staining. There's less staining if you use an appropriate kind of primer, and if you are aware that it is going to be staining, it doesn't cause an issue. I have not yet had irritation when I'm just using the colors on my lid. When I do get them a little bit too close to my certain colors, when I do get them a little bit too close to my eyeballs, when I'm doing the lower lash line, it does cause a wee bit of irritation, but not horribly. It's mostly my eye is going to water like a fountain, and my eye waters a lot anyways. So there's that. This is what the palette looks like. The exterior of the palette is just cardboard packaging. It does have a really nice magnet on it. You guys maybe just saw me struggling with it. I love that it is this, you know, cardboard black like matte packaging with shiny James Charles and Morphe lettering on it. It's not raised, it's just there, and it feels different than, of course, the mattes do. On the inside, it is the same on the inner flap. It says Unleash Your Inner Artist up here in that glossy font. And then this is what the palette looks like. You do notice there are two different sizes of pans. The middle row here is what they are calling supersized shadows, or supersized pigments, I should say. There are 39 shades in here, and this is cruelty free. It's basically built into two different sections, neutrals on top, brights on bottom, and then this row of shades is all the regular shades that one might use more often. This one is technically a highlighter shade, and it is actually a pretty highlight shade. I used it a lot in my brow bone. I thought it was a beautiful shade for there. There is this transparent sheet here that comes with the palette that has all the names of the shadows on it, because you will note the shadow names are not on the palette, even though there was plenty of room for them to put that on there. In my opinion, these things just kind of are wasteful. And I mean, I understand why they do it, but they're wasteful, they get lost. There's no reason to put the palette name or the shadow names on here, because people are going to either lose that or they're going to get rid of it. It is, you know, I try and keep them in my palettes, but I have also been known to throw them away accidentally or drop them, lose them, whatever. So I will say that these perform pretty well, but almost all of them feel awful to the touch. Almost all of them feel like really grippy and really dusty and really like, I would say like sandy, but not sandy, because they're not like scratchy by any means, but they're dusty and they're grippy in the pan when you feel of them with your fingers. The darker shades, the more colorful shades down here, they could perform better. I feel like they lift in certain spots. They oxidize sometimes around the edges. I do have like this lime green on my eyes and this dark blue on my eyes and this blue on my eyes today, as well as this shade here and this shade up here. And I feel like the one that performed the best was this lighter blue shade up here. Not a lot of the shadows on my eyes performed super well today. The shimmers in this palette leave you wanting for more. This color, this center color on my lid today is this blue shimmer topped with this on the very center, and I just feel like it didn't matter how I went in, not with my finger or a brush or a dense brush or a fluffy brush. It didn't really perform like a lot of the crazy shimmers that I like to use perform. I do like my eye look today, don't get me wrong, but I feel like the shimmers could have performed quite a bit better. They left me just feeling ho-hum about the shimmers on my eye look. I feel like I could have had a better, more out there shimmer by using like the highlight that I was putting on my face or something else, or pulling a shimmer from any other palettes. I feel like this is probably going to end up being a dang mess, but I'll do some swatches for you guys. In row 1, on my hands, can you guys see it? We have Canvas, which is a matte cream color. It is a color that I used every day to set my eyeshadow primer if I had a primer on my lids. Then we have Ring Light, which is really very pretty. It is probably the best acting shimmer in the palette, honestly, and it's kind of like this shimmery pearl color. Then we have So Good, which is a gold metallic color. Then we have 518, which is a matte bright orange shadow. And I don't know what the significance of these shadow names are because I don't really follow. James Charles is not somebody I stan. He's not somebody I get super involved with listening to the crazy in his life. So, but I know that you guys can see that. Oh, there's orange all over my shirt. That's fun. Hopefully you guys can see how that's swatched. Can you guys see how that's swatched? It swatched really, really poorly. Like there's a lot of the color up here, and then as you pull it down, it just kind of like dissipates, and that's how I found them to perform on the eye. Honestly, if I wanted a color to really stand out, I kind of had to pat it on there. I don't know how many times I went back over the darker blue in this eye look just so that there appeared to be dark blue on my eyes. The next one here we have is Rusted, and it is a matte like red orange shade. It really looks red on your eye look. Then we have this one here, which is Halloween. It is a metallic copper shade. Then we have Wig, which is a metallic like patinaed brass shade. Then we have Tea, which is a matte like gray brown. This actually would be a great shade for contouring, to be honest. Row 2, we have this one here, which is called Punch Me, and it is a matte like light like latte color. It reminds me of coffee with cream in it. Then we have this one here, which is Sister, a really pretty shimmer shade, and the swatches are so much better than that actually appears on the eyes. It's a very light pink kind of gold shifty color. Then we have this one here, which is Mary, and it is a matte dusty rose shade, and it's actually a pretty beautiful shade. Then we have this one here, which is there next to that one, and it is called Literally, and it's a shimmery pink shade, and I find that to be the worst shimmer in the palette. Honestly, you guys can barely see it, and it just doesn't perform well on the eye either. And then we have You're Kidding, which is a matte red, and I find that this one and the what was it, Rusted from the first row, the matte, so it's these two colors right here. They look very, very similar on the eye. I don't feel like you need both, to be honest. There's not a whole lot of differentiation between the two. And then we have this one here, which is Shook. It is a metallic cranberry. It is a very pretty color. I do like this color. Then we have Boutique, which is a matte maroon. It performs more like a brown than it does a maroon. And then we have that one, which is called Benny, and it is a matte, like brown black. It is a very, very dark brown on the eye. And in the swatch, it kind of looks black, but on the camera, it looks more brown. So, the next row is these supersized shades, and these are the shades that, you know, are everyday, more than normal use of a shadow. I really did like how the white and the black in this row perform. Row 3, we have Flashback, which is a matte white, and you guys can see that that really performs well for a matte white shade. Then we have this one, which is a Face. It's called Face. It's a shimmer champagne shade, and I think it was put into this palette as a highlighting shade. It is a beautiful shade. I love it as like a brow bone highlight, but the matte white works just as well. Then we have this one, which is Tune. It is a matte light peach color, but it performs more yellow, and it is really dusty. It's falling all over the place. It looks more yellow, and in the pan it looks more yellow, so I don't know why they call it a matte light peach, because in my mind it's kind of like a butter yellow. Then we have that shade there, which is called Code James, and it is a matte like creamsicle orange shade. Okay, then we have 10% Off, which is that guy, and that is a matte like orange brown. Then we have No Beans, which is a matte warm brown. And then we have the black one, which is called Spooky. You guys see that white and that black, they actually perform so well. This black is an amazing black, in my opinion. So it's important to note that the reason why it has 39 shades in it instead of 40 is because that center row is made up of 7 shadows instead of 8. And that is, again, because of the supersized pans. Those ones are more of the size of a like ColourPop highlight, whereas the other ones are the size of a regular eyeshadow. So dusty, I'm getting kick up everywhere. And then we get into the bright shades. Row 4, we have B, which is a matte bright yellow. And then we have Guac, which is a metallic olive green shade. Then we have Hello, which is a metallic like shimmer sky blue shade, and that is in my eye look today. And then we have Playground, which is a matte turquoise. Then we have Brother, which is a matte like periwinkle shade. Then we have Artistry, which in my opinion was the disappointment of the shimmer shades, because this has the capability of being so beautiful and it just isn't. It is a metallic like blue purple. It performs more like a satin to some extent. It doesn't have a whole lot of shimmeriness to it once it's on your lid. It doesn't pack on very well with a brush. It doesn't perform very well with your finger. It's just a weird shade. And then we have Love That, which is actually one of my favorites in the palette. It is a matte like magenta shade. And then we have this pale pink here on the end. Oops, I just got some blue in there. Pale pink on the end, which is Pinkity Drinkity. It is a matte like pale pink and reminds me of the pink drink from Starbucks, because it is the color of the pink drink, which is, you know, I think James Charles is boasted as, you know, inventing, but because I used to work there, I can tell you that's just not true. It's not true. It's so many people ordering that drink way before James Charles ever thought about drinking it. The last row has Social Blade, which is a matte bright green shade. Then we have Daddy, which is a matte forest green. Then we have Cape Cod, which is a really, really pretty metallic, like silver blue shade. Then we have Cola, which is a matte, in my mind, true blue. The periwinkle shade in the palette in the row above, they called a true blue. I feel like it's more of a lavender blue, more of a periwinkle for sure. This one reminds me of a Pepsi Cola can, which might be why it's called Cola, I'm not sure. And therefore a little more truer blue than that periwinkle shade above it. Then we have Acapella, which is a metallic dark blue. We have a matte purple named Escape. We have a matte fuchsia, and that one's name is Single, and that one is pretty uninspiring. And then we have the matte hot pink named Skip. Probably my favorite row in the palette, just because of all the crazy color in it. I think that it's got some really pretty color in it. I will say that I didn't find myself wanting for much as far as colors go when I was using this palette. So when he initially brought out this rolled it out, he rolled it out as the only palette you'll ever need. So with that in mind, I will say I didn't find myself wanting for a color that wasn't in this palette. This palette really does have probably all that you'll ever need if you only want one palette. But for the average everyday consumer of makeup, if I had picked up this palette 2 years ago, I would never be able to use it. I would hate it so much. I struggled with this palette on a level that I don't think I've ever struggled with eyeshadows before in my last year, for sure. And I don't struggle anymore with shadows for the most part. Here and there, sure. Not with every single shade. Even the naturals, even the neutral shades in here were a struggle. I will say that the shade that they are in the pan is what they appear to be on your eye as well, but most of them you have to just pat into your eye look and not really blend a whole lot. So a new person coming into makeup, this is not the palette for you. Even though it has every single shade you might want for any kind of makeup look you could perform on your eye, this isn't the palette for you. It just is, it's super hard to use. The little one might be different. It might have a different formula, so maybe think about that one. I would say this would be super hard to take with you anywhere. It is a really big palette, so there's that. Unless you have no qualms with, you know, putting it in your bag and not putting it in your makeup bag, but in your suitcase in between, you know, layers of clothes or whatnot, then you wouldn't want it if you travel a bunch, because it's just not a travel friendly palette. I don't mind stacking my palettes in between clothes in my suitcase because I want to take whichever palette I want to take. So for me, travel friendly just means it's got it's gonna fit in my suitcase. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to fit in a makeup bag. It isn't a bad palette. It's just not easy for somebody who might be new to makeup. I did struggle with it. I have a Get Ready With Me collab that I did with my friend Sherry here on the channel that posted on the 3rd, and if I can remember. I will put it up in the cards. That eye look that I made for that I did in that, I think there's a little like blooper blurb at the end of that video with like me talking about the struggles that I was having with that palette. That was the third time I filmed that. The first time didn't turn out at all. The second time I realized I wasn't recording, but I had almost gotten that eye look done, had to completely take it off, and it took me easily 2 hours to get through it. It took me a little bit of time to get used to this palette. The darker colors definitely perform worse than the lighter ones. Like I said earlier, they kind of lift, they definitely oxidize around the edges, and they like to lift the colors that are underneath them. They don't like to blend. None of them like to blend. It worked better with a primer than it did without. It didn't hardly work at all without, which is the weirdest thing to me. I would say that the creamier, tackier the primer, the better, even though you lay down a shade over the top of I did anyways, laid down a shade over the top of that tacky base. It was a better primer than a creamier, less sticky, or not a creamier, a more liquid, less sticky primer like the Primer Potion from Urban Decay. Don't use that one, it's awful. The one I found worked best underneath it was my MAC paint pot in soft ochre. Even using that and then a white pencil underneath it would bring out some of the color, but that white pencil just kind of, it really kind of sucked. It really kind of sucked, if I have to be honest. I did like the palette. I liked using it. I love that all of the colors of the rainbow are there. I mean, they really did a good job with making sure that it had every color that you might need for an eye look. I do love the fact that the bigger pans in the center are the really good like deepening up shades or laying down a base shades. That black you can put down and put like any of these shimmers on top of and it would look great. Same with white. The white you could lay down over the top of, as a matter of fact, I did put it on top of the primer that I was using often to lay down just a lighter colored base because the soft ochre paint pot is a little bit yellow. So I feel like they did a good job with this palette. I just feel like it's definitely not user friendly and it's certainly not new user friendly. Let's pick a new palette for this week. For those of you who are unaware, I have a Samsung Note 9. I do have an app that I got out of the Play Store that's just basically a Wheel of Fortune looking app. I put all of my palettes into this process and as we use them, I take them out. As I get new ones in, I put them in. We have been using this now for over a year. It's working really well. We've done 2 of these palette roulette videos that we've used 2 palettes in. But other than that, we're just doing a palette a week on here. And I really kind of like the way that this is going. I hope that you guys do too. So we're going to pick the new palette that we're using next week. So it is the Becca Volcano Goddess palette, which I'm actually kind of excited for. My friend JC got this for me from TJ Maxx, I think it was. It was a palette that I initially was going to purchase on Sephora, but didn't want to pay I think it was $55 that they wanted for it. So I'm kind of excited that it's a smaller palette because I do have to travel this week, and B, that it's a palette I haven't used yet. And C, I've not tried the Becca formula for eyeshadows. I have tried Becca for, skin products. Her highlighters are one of my favorites, but I haven't tried her eyeshadow formula yet. So I'm super excited to use it. We're going to go grab it. I'll be right back. All right, this is the Becca Volcano Goddess palette. It has a really nice mirror, lays flat, and this is what the shade range looks like. There's not a whole lot of color involved here. Most of this palette is metallic, so I'm going to pack my single shadows too, just so I have those mattes that I need that are colorful, as well as some, you know, other colorful shades that might go with my stuff. The reason being is because I'm doing some like holiday touring the next couple of weeks to my stores, and I really want to make sure that my eye look is very festive. So while I'll be able to get a lot of that out of here, there's some colors that I might want to use that I can't find in here, so I'm going to bring my singles along with me. But this is the palette that I will come back to you with some information on next week. I hope that it's good. I love Becca highlighters, so I can't imagine that their eyeshadows are going to be worse. But we never know. So with that being said, thank you again so much for joining us today. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you got some information that you didn't already have. And I hope that if you enjoyed it, you're considering giving it a big thumbs up. I also hope that you'll consider subscribing to my channel. And if you do, that you hit that notification bell, because I do upload content pretty sporadically throughout the month of December. But typically it is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or Sunday, depending on my work week. And typically it is at 9 a.m. But I am a technological dummy and can not get my poop in a group. So sometimes they've been coming out wrong, or coming out at the wrong time, or not going up entirely because my technology wants to be shitheads. What else can I say? Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope that you enjoyed this. Please let me know if you have the James Charles palette, what you think of it. Let me know also if you have the full size or the small one. Let me know what you think. Also, let me know if you're doing a palette a week series, either in your real life or here on camera. I would really love to go see it if you're doing it on YouTube as well. And if not, I'd really like to help, you know, egg you on for your palette a week that you're doing on your own, not on camera. That's okay too. I'd really just, that was my Coke can. I'd really just like to know what palette you're working your way through this week. Thank you guys again. I hope December is treating you well. And until next time, bye guys.